Happy Thursday, guys. Thank you for joining me back again on Crossing Line with Dev. Today's episode is going to be all about the NBA playoffs and how the Eastern and Western Conference Finals have gone so far. So let's get started because last week was right after Game 2 of the Thunder and Timberwolves series. So directly after that, we had Game 3 of the Pacers and Knicks. And man, this was a really good and close game. The New York Knicks, I thought maybe had a chance to kind of not tie up the series, but to at least make it 2-1. But the Pacers just bounced back, and man, do they have 8 guys that they can play on any team at any time. In this game, this is the game where Pascal had 40 points. Look, we all know Pascal is a great player. He's a great defender, and he has his offensive capabilities. But to be honest, I wasn't expecting Pascal to be the guy to carry this team to a victory, at least in a game in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson had 36, Mikal had 20, Cat had 20, and then the rest of the team I don't think they traded for OG Anunoby to be like a 13 point, 16 point on average night guy. I think they were expecting a little bit more out of him. Josh Hart only had 6 points, 6 rebounds. Cat only had 7 rebounds, no assists. Jalen had 11 assists, 3 rebounds, and 36 points. Like, he was essentially doing it all and was a huge reason why the Knicks were even in it in this game, because it didn't really feel like anybody else was giving them enough to make this a close game, even though it was a close game. The Pacers, Tyrese only had 14 points, but he had 11 assists and 8 rebounds. This guy just does it all. He's like LeBron. He just does everything. He doesn't need to be the guy that scores 30-plus points a night. He's okay being a guy who has 6-plus rebounds, 8-plus assists, and 10 points. And if the team wins, he's happy. TJ McConnell had 10 points in this game. Aaron Nesmith had 12, which is about average. Andrew Nembhard had 12 points, which is about average. But this was a really close game, and it came down to the wire. And if it wasn't for the Pacers outscoring the Knicks by 5 in the fourth quarter, because going into the fourth quarter, it was tied. And the Pacers just ran away with it towards the end of the game. Then that brings us to Game 3, which at this point, remember, the Pacers are up 2-0 after the win that we just talked about. Then they go into Game 3. The Pacers at one point were up almost 30 points in this game. 30 points. I mean, after the second half, I turned it off I don't know if I remember turning it off for just a second, or if I went to go do something because the game kind of felt like a blowout at that point. But going into halftime and slightly into the third quarter, the Pacers were up almost 30 points. Then slowly, the Knicks made their way back into it. They outscored them by 3 in the third quarter, and then outscored them by 16 in the fourth quarter. 16. And I'm pretty sure Jalen Brunson was in foul trouble this game because he only had 23 points. But you got 24 from Cat, 15 from Mikal, 16 from OG. Mitchell Robinson did his stuff on the boards, had 6 points. Josh Hart had 8 points. Miles McBride had 9 points. He was in a couple big threes. But the Knicks just clawed their way back into it. And they somehow ended up winning this game. I mean, there was one point where Tyrese hits a 3. The Knicks take the ball down court. He steals it and dunks it to go up by like 20-plus points. I'm pretty sure they were chanting in the Pacers stadium to go home, because that's how the game felt at that point. Tyrese had 20, TJ McConnell had 12, Pascal had 17, Miles Turner had 19, and then the rest of the team kind of just didn't show up in an incredible way. But I was not expecting this. And I do remember I was at a birthday party at a birthday dinner, mind you. And I'm watching the game off my phone and off the TVs they had. And so there was times where I'm looking away, talking to people, looking back. Every time I looked away, it just felt like the Pacers were up a ton and that this was going to be a blowout game. And they somehow found a way to stop the Knicks completely from making some sort of comeback in this series. But I was wrong because eventually it got to the fourth quarter and I'm like, how the hell is it so close? I do not understand. Because Jalen's in foul trouble. Cat's hitting big shots. But somehow, some way, the Knicks found a way to bounce back and not tie the series, but make the series closer at 2-1. That brings us to Game 4. And man, was this an exciting game. Exciting game. It was just high scoring, high flying. This was one of the games that you love to watch as an NBA fan. I know a lot of people talk about the 90s and how great they were, but when you're watching an 85-80 game, it can get slow, it can get methodical, it can get physical, it can get slightly boring at times. And so as an NBA fan of the new NBA, I do enjoy a game that's high scoring, high flying, and close. I don't enjoy a blowout that's 220 plus. I enjoy a game that's close and high scoring. Everybody was hitting shots in this game. I mean, everybody. The Knicks go down 8 to the Pacers in the first quarter. The Knicks bounce back with a plus 3-point second quarter. Then the Pacers again had a good third quarter with all their starters in after halftime, go up 6, and then the Knicks only outscored the Pacers by 2 points in the fourth quarter. So the Pacers did end up winning by 9 points, but the game never really felt out of reach at any point to me. I don't remember it ever getting above 15 points. I could be wrong, but I don't really remember. I guess going into the fourth quarter maybe, but it didn't really feel out of reach. It always felt like if the Knicks hit a couple big shots, they're right back in the game. OG had 22, Cat had 22, Jalen had 31, again being Superman for this team. Mikal had 17. Mikal has been the player I think they traded for. I don't think he was originally when they first traded for him mid-season. I don't think he found where his spot was on this team. But coming into the playoffs, he's really succeeded in finding out where he fits into the role of this team. He's that guy who's going to come in and make offensive capability, not only in clutch moments, but when Jalen needs a break. Because yes, Jalen feels like he does it all, but you cannot rely on Jalen to get those hard buckets all game and have the energy to make it happen if it goes into clutch time. He needs a break every once in a while, even though it feels like his motor never stops. But Mikal Bridges had 17, Josh Hart had 12. Everybody was hitting shots on this team. Everybody. Cat had 12 rebounds, 3 assists. Josh Hart had 11 rebounds, again being a point guard size, being a hustle guy who fights for boards for the Knicks. I know that they lost, and that put the Pacers up 3-1, and I'm pretty sure like 90% of teams who go up 3-1 in a playoff series end up winning. But you did see some fight out of the Knicks, and I just think the Pacers have too many players, can give their starters too many breaks for the Knicks to succeed. Pascal had 30, Tyrese had 32, 12 and 15. He had a 30-point triple-double, a 30-plus point triple-double. I think he was the only one in Pacers history, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was the only one in Pacers history to ever have 2 triple-doubles in a playoff series. Aaron Nesmith had 16, Miles Turner had 13. Benedict Mathurin off the bench had 20 points. Everybody was hitting shots. Everybody. I'm pretty sure Nesmith or Nembhard. Yeah, Nembhard got hurt, and that's why Benedict Mathurin got so much playing time. But the Pacers they have 10 guys you can play at any night, even if it's an Eastern Conference Finals. I feel terribly for the Knicks because I don't know what else they can do. Yeah, I just don't know what else they can do because they've had Julius Randle. It didn't work out. They couldn't figure out how to get past the Eastern Conference Finals. Then you trade for Karl Anthony Towns, the best shooting big man of all time in NBA history, and they still cannot seem to figure out getting past these series and making it to the finals. And it sucks for Knicks fans because they get their hopes up every year, and I don't know what they need to do to change. They have rebounding capability, they have an incredible point guard, they have some great role players and a big man who can shoot and a big man who can rebound, not only in both Mitchell Robinson but Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know if the Pacers just have too many bench guys that can play and get in the rotation to not allow the Knicks to sit their guys at any one time. I'm not sure. But the Knicks just cannot seem to get over not only the hump to the finals, but the Pacers hump because they continue to lose series to the Pacers. Now, I know they're going back to Game 5 in New York, but the Pacers are up 3-1. And so for the Knicks to bounce back from a 3-1 deficit, it's going to be tough. And if they do it, it's going to be talked about in legend forever. Forever. But I do see the Pacers closing this out in either Game 5 or Game 6. And seeing the Pacers go to the finals for the first time in I don't know how long. Ever, maybe? Have the Pacers ever been to the finals? Oh, yeah, they have. I'm so dumb. They went in 2000. They did go in 2000. I totally forgot. Because that's when they had... Why am I blanking? That is when they had... Reggie Miller. Man, I could not remember his name to save the life of me. But yes, that's when they had Reggie Miller, Chris Mullin, Sam Perkins, Jalen Rose. Wow, that was a good team, but I'm pretty sure they ended up losing to the Los Angeles Lakers and Kobe and Shaq. So yes, they haven't been since 2000. And I just feel bad for players like Jalen Brunson, even Cat, because he's been to the playoffs so many times in his career and never been able to make it to the finals. And Josh Hart. I think most Knicks fans will say that Josh Hart is the heart of the team because he reminds everybody of New York. He's a hustle guy. He doesn't need to be the star of the show. He just clocks in, clocks out, and does his damn job to the fullest. And so I just feel bad for guys like that who... I don't know how many of these guys will be back next year. I don't know how many guys... I don't know the contract situation, so I don't know how many guys they can afford to bring back. But I do want to see Jalen Brunson make it to a finals because he's put in the work. You can tell he's in the gym every offseason, perfecting his craft, and coming back every year, and he performs in the biggest moments. Any team would be lucky to have a player like that. And the Mavs are crazy for letting him go at any point, for trading him to the Knicks in the first place. Now let's bounce over to the other series, which kind of feels like it's going in the same way, to be honest. So after Game 3, the Thunder won Game 2, and so they went up 2-1 in the series. And I don't know if these better teams... Whatever better team in the series, when they're going up, they end up just having one game where they just kind of want to not try as hard. Like they don't feel like they need to try 100% in the game, and so they end up getting blown out early in the game because they're kind of flat-footed. They don't feel like they're needing to fight for anything at any moment because they're already up in the series. So the Thunder go up 2-0 in the series, and then this game was just an absolute blowout by the Timberwolves. I mean, Ant had 30, Julius Randle had 24, a couple players off the bench had 10 plus points. Jaden McDaniels had 10 points. Like, it was just an absolute blowout. I mean, they won by 42 points in this series, which is crazy because I don't think the Thunder have been the team that does the 40 plus point blowouts in the playoffs. And so to see them get blown out early was insane. I mean, Shea only had 14 points, Chet had 10, Jalen Williams only had 13, and they just played a bunch of bench guys for the rest of the game. This was just an absolute blowout. And so going back to game 4 with the Thunder up 2-1, I thought this kind of felt like maybe that this would put a little bit of drive into the Timberwolves, that maybe they can make the series close. And this was a damn good game in game 5. Damn good game. They had a 67-point first quarter, a 55-point second quarter, a 53-point third quarter, and then in quarter 4 was a 79-point quarter. I mean, everybody was hitting shots. There was no defense to be played in this game, at least definitely in the fourth quarter. Shea had 40, 10, and 9. Jalen Williams had 34, 5, and 3. Chet had 21. Caruso had 10. And then on the Timberwolves side, Jaden McDaniels had 22. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 23. Dante had 21. The only people that didn't really hit shots were Julius Randle, Ant, and Rudy. The 3 players you expect to be above 15 plus, 20 plus points in a crazy, exciting, high-scoring game. Ant could not get it started. They were guarding Ant incredibly well. He wasn't hitting shots till late. Julius Randle could not get a damn thing going. He had 5 points in this game. 5 points. You cannot have that as a Batman on an NBA roster in the Western Conference Finals to score 5 points and expect to win. But mind you, the Timberwolves only lost by 2 points in this game. 2 points. It was 128 to 126. This came down to the wire, and it was all role players carrying this team to an almost victory against the Thunder, who had to have their stars score incredible numbers to even win this game. I mean, between Chet, Shea, and Jalen, they scored 95 points together. They scored all but 37, they scored all but 38 points in this game. Which is insane to think about. 3 guys practically scored 3/4 of the points of your team's points. It wasn't like that on the Timberwolves. It was just kind of everybody making shots. Terrence Shannon off the bench had 9. Nas had 11. Nickeil and Dante had 44 points. Jaden McDaniels had 22 points. It was just role players carrying this team. But unfortunately, this put the Thunder up 3-1. And so now you're going to a Game 5, Thunder up 3-1. The Thunder up 3-1. Going back to Oklahoma City. And at this point, it felt like the Pacers-Knicks series, where any team that goes up 3-1 has a 90% chance of winning the series. Now, Julius Randle tried his hardest in this game. He had 24 points, but I think this started off at the beginning. The Timberwolves had a 9-point quarter. 9-point quarter. The Oklahoma City Thunder had a 26-point quarter. So they played defense. They couldn't make shots, and then the Thunder just made an average amount of shots for an NBA team in a first quarter. They scored 26 to the Minnesota Timberwolves 9. Then in the second quarter, the Timberwolves scored 23, but they would remember they'd have to play incredible defense or score a crazy amount of offensive points to make up for that 9-point quarter. But the Thunder hit even more shots, scored almost 40 points in the second quarter. So at this point, it's 31 to 65. They're up 34 points going into the second half. The Timberwolves had a +7 third quarter, but that's not enough to make up for 35 points. And then in the fourth quarter, the Thunder outscored them. So Ant had 19, Julius Randle had 24, Naz Reid had 11, and then a bunch of bench guys got minutes because it was a blowout. And the Thunder, Shea had 34. He stayed pretty late into the game. Jalen had 19. Chet had 22. A couple bench guys got minutes and points. But this closed out the series, and it wasn't a good game. And I feel bad for Ant. I feel bad for Julius Randle because it felt like a spark coming into this series of, can they do it? Can they make it to the finals? Do they finally have the pieces around them to get past the hump after the Julius Cat trade? Remember, they got Dante in that trade. They have great role players. They have a Robin. They have a Batman. And they have great role players. And they have Rudy Gobert, who's always been in the conversation for defensive player of the year. But they couldn't get it done. I've been saying this since the Denver Nuggets series. When the Nuggets kept winning games against the Thunder, when you knew that the Thunder were the better team. And I kept saying, I know that the Thunder are the better team in this series, but the Nuggets kept winning games and making it close. And I said, if the Thunder lose this series, they will never be able to get over the hump and make it to the NBA Finals. But if they win this series against the Nuggets, they will win the NBA Finals. And they proved it. They got over the hump in the Game 7 against the Nuggets and then blew out the Timberwolves in this 5-game series. A couple of these games, 3 of these games weren't really close at all. The Timberwolves had a blowout. The Thunder had 2 blowouts, so only one of the games was really that close. And so I see the Thunder winning the chip this year. I do. And it will be fun to watch the Pacers because it feels like the only team that can match them in amount of players that can be played off the bench, amount of players that they have to be able to get minutes. To be honest, it feels like the most even matchup. But I do see the Thunder winning the chip this year. And if it's against the Pacers, I can see it going to a Game 6 maybe. And if the Pacers really find that spark and that clutch gene that they seem to always have in series, I can see it maybe going to a Game 7. But I do see the Thunder winning the chip this year. Immediately after they beat the Nuggets, I thought nobody could beat them. Nobody had, maybe the Celtics, but this is at the point where Jason got hurt. And the Knicks were up heavy in that series. And so the Timberwolves and, the Knicks-Pacers Game 5 is tomorrow with the Pacers up 3-1. And so we'll see how that turns out. I assume that the Pacers will win the series unless the Knicks just have an incredible 3-game stretch where they win every game in a row and go to the finals. But that's been all for the playoffs. The Timberwolves underperformed in the Western Conference Finals. Ant had a couple bad games. Shea seems to always put up 30+7 and 7. Chet's had a great series. Jalen's been incredible in a couple of these games. And defense. The Thunder have the best defense by far in the NBA playoffs. They have so many guys that can be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Caruso would be a starter and a Defensive Player of the Year on most teams that he plays on. But because of the amount of players that they have, he's not always in the starting rotation. I mean, it's crazy to think that Isaiah Joe comes off the bench for 6 minutes. Aaron Wiggins comes off the bench for 8 minutes. They just have a ton of players that they can play. And this has all been built throughout the draft. The only guy they really traded for on this team, and they haven't had to spend a lot to get him, is I'm pretty sure Caruso and Hartenstein. They traded for him. Remember, he was a New York Knick. And so they traded for him to get some rebounding, to get some, paint play. But other than that, they've built this all throughout the draft. And so they haven't had to spend a lot of money. They haven't had to give a lot of picks away to trade for players. And now we'll see what happens with the Timberwolves. Do they change it up? Do they get rid of Cat? They won't get rid of Ant. There's not a damn chance they get rid of Ant ever. He's probably going to be the face of the league. And if he isn't, everybody wants him to be. But I think the only people that don't want him to be are the NBA, the heads of the NBA, because of all the off-the-court stuff, which is hilarious. I heard Andrew Schultz say that if he got a vasectomy, he would absolutely be the face of the league in a heartbeat because he's exciting to watch. He dunks on people. He can do step-back threes. He just has it all to do his game. But I don't know what they do. I mean, I don't think they get rid of a lot of their role players. But do they do something with Rudy? Do they do something with Julius Randle? What can they get for a player like Jaden McDaniels or a player like Naz Reid? I'm not sure. But I don't see them getting rid of Dante DiVincenzo. Mike Conley's getting kind of old. I don't know if they're going to want to maybe put him to like a bench point guard and off the bench point guard. I'm not sure. And I don't know what they need to do to change around this team. I know that they haven't got the offensive power that they need from Rudy Gobert, so maybe that's a spot you can look. But this is going to be an offseason to see what these teams that lost in the playoffs do. But that's been it for the NBA playoffs. We'll see how the Pacers-Knicks series ends tomorrow or if it continues to go on. So let's just hop over to two stories in the NFL. One, which is a story that everybody makes every NFL offseason during OTAs when you have rookies that seem to be backups that are big names come in, because everybody's talking about how Sanders has put on an absolute clinic at the Browns OTA. He's looked like the quote-unquote best player out of all the QBs that the Browns have. They're talking about how he's been incredible in 7-on-7, 9-on-7, 11-on-11 drills. But I think I kind of wanted to bring this up to say, like, we kind of always expected this because he should have been drafted in the first round, even if it was late first round. He was that talent caliber player. But I don't, he had all the drama coming behind him, so I think that's why he got pushed so far down. And because of how big his name is and who his dad is, teams really have to be sure in themselves and their coaching staffs in who they make and pick to choose to start as the QB. Because remember, the minute if Shadur does not start and the starting quarterback of the Browns has a bad game, who is the first person that's going to be boisterous about it? Dion. And Dion is such an incredible force in the NFL community that he is going to create storylines around anything he says. And so we kind of expected this with Shadur, that his name is just going to keep getting pumped as that he looks incredible and that he should be the starter. And so we're about to see. If the Browns do not make him the starter, how is this going to fare for not only the coaching staff of the Browns, but of the starting QB of the Browns, who is, expected to be Deshaun if he comes back from his injury? And so is Deshaun's name going to get dragged through the mud even more than it already has throughout his career when he performs like quote-unquote shit and Shador is on the bench? We'll see. The next story is kind of a dumb one. remember, Stephon Diggs gets traded to the Patriots in the offseason. And then Stephon Diggs gets found videotaped on a yacht partying with some girls, and a girl had a baggie of substance next to him in the video. Now, I'm assuming, Stephon probably is claiming I didn't know about it or I wasn't doing it. I had no idea. But he has not been at OTAs. He's not been present at OTAs. So I don't know if they suspended him. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's going to get fined or suspended games because of this. I'm assuming he's definitely probably going to get piss tested to make sure that he wasn't doing any of it. But you got to be aware, as an NFL player, especially with a name like Stephon Diggs, everybody who watches the NFL knows who Stephon Diggs is. He's probably going to be recognized. He's probably going to be filmed by paparazzi or just fans that see him and want to videotape him to say, wow, look at who is right next to me. You got to be aware that anything you do is probably going to be put on film. We're in an age where everybody has a camera in their pocket. Anybody can film at any point in time. And when you're famous, none of what you do is private, especially in public. Like, he is technically in public on a yacht, but he's on a yacht. Unless he's inside the yacht where nobody can see him, if he's standing on the edge of a boat, anybody on the water that recognizes Stephon Diggs is going to film him. So I hope this gets figured out, and I hope that this doesn't ruin not only the Patriots' season, but his season, because he's coming off that ACL injury. So I hope that he doesn't get too much down. I hope he doesn't, get suspended like year for this. I hope he doesn't get, if he does, he just gets fined, and I hope that he can come back to the Patriots before the season starts, but we shall see. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll keep updated on this story, but those were the only two crazy stories about the NFL so far. Remember, this is the part of the season where not a lot's being talked about. It's just OTAs, and not even the crazy big name starters are at OTAs. These are mostly just the rookies, because it's offensive, training camp. Pretty much training camp for rookies. And so we will talk more about it as the season gets closer to start. But that's pretty much been it this week, guys. I just wanted to talk about how the NBA playoffs is going. We'll talk about MLB as it gets closer to the playoffs. And then next week, I think we will keep updated on Andor. And we will keep updated on The Last of Us, because they have been incredible shows. Andor has already finished, but I kind of want to talk about it on the same episode as The Last of Us as it finishes. And then we have a couple big movies coming this offseason. Remember, Marvel did all the pushback stuff. They canceled some dates. They canceled some titles. And now we have only Fantastic Four from the MCU and the DCU has Superman coming out this summer. In both July, I think. One is early July, one is late July. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me for Crossing the Line with Dev. If you enjoyed what you watched and listened to, leave a comment, like, subscribe, follow me on all of my socials, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much. Have a good week and enjoy these NBA playoffs while they last. Peace.